وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. As we continue, as we explain the ahkam, briefly inshallah, what will aid the women as it pertains to fasting and trying to tie everything in regards to a woman's mens and to distinguish between what is a mens and what's not, or what they call istihada. Istihada, like we said, is called damu fasad or damu irq, or they call it nazif. That basically, the istihada, they call it as some type of hemorrhage, hemorrhaging from the woman's womb, but it's not a mens, it's something else. As we were elaborating on this issue, we were talking about the different circumstances, of course, in regards to a woman's mens, and tying it in with one's fasting so they could distinguish whether or not a woman is on her mens or not. And in regards to that spotting or that discoloration that sometimes takes over the woman during the duration of the course of certain days, not only just in Ramadan but outside the month of Ramadan. Well, you'll find that some of our people in general, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of Muslims in general all around the world are ignorant of these matters. They think that it's just here. No. In a lot of countries you realize and you think that certain people know certain affairs because they were born in certain countries, and you'll find that their knowledge is very, very little in these matters. Due to either the fact that these importance wasn't put any emphasis on learning them, or due to someone who was not properly well grounded in knowledge was teaching them, or they misled them, or teaching them incorrectly, or conveying to them incorrect information. So in this regard, we want to mention about ahwal al-istihada just briefly before we get inside where we left off last week. As we talked about how a woman is able to distinguish al-istihada, and I'll just mention it briefly again just to put emphasis on what had preceded from the last lesson. As ahwal al-istihada or lil-mustahada, thalathu ahwal, or halat. For a woman that's on what they call istihada, which is called a hemorrhage. Like we talked about and said, the reason for why this blood emanates and comes out of the woman is due to the kick that shaitan, that he aggravates in the woman in order to cause her grief, in order to cause her sadness, and in order to cause some type of depression or anguishment within the woman. So istihada, you'll find that it's the opposite of a mens. I'll read briefly from the great Imam Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymin when he mentioned this regard. He said, "Mustahada thalathu halat," that a woman that's on istihada, that she has three conditions. He mentions the first one. He says, "Al-hal al-ula, an yakuna laha hayd ma'lum qabla al-istihada, فبهذه ترجع إلى مدة حيضها المعلوم السابق." We already talked about this before. He says how a woman can determine if she's on istihada, which is not a mens. Keep in mind, like we said last class or the previous classes, it's not a mens, but it's another type of blood that comes out of the woman. But we know the ahkam in regards to istihada is as if she's in a state of purity, because she still will have to pray, she still will have to fast, she still can make tawaf around the Kaaba, she can make hajj, she can continue to make umrah. It's as if she's still pure, as we mentioned last class. So we said last week, what did we say, how a woman can determine whether or not she's on her mens or istihada? What's the first step? What did we say? What was the first thing? I can't hear. Jayyid. So that's exactly what the great Imam mentioned said. He said here, he said, "أن يكون لها حين معلوم." It's exactly what the sister said, أحسنتي. He said that she will have a known mens when it was normal, before the sickness took place, istihada took place. So it would go back to the period of time, what is إلى مدة حيضها المعلوم السابق. It would go back to its previous normal time, from when her mens was normal. And she would sit in that period of time, of course, not praying, and the ahkam of a woman's mens will be established, whereas She leaves off the prayer, she leaves off fasting to the end of it. So that's during the time when her mens was normal, right? So when istihada comes in, likewise, if that sickness was to take her over, then what do we say? When it was normal, she would sit those days as if she was still having her normal mens. And when the time it stops, and when the time that it also occurred, she would sit those days as if she's on her mens when it was normal, and count the days and when it would normally stop. And if blood continues after that, then we consider that to be istihada, and it's not a mens anymore. So he even gives an example like we mentioned last class. He says, مثال ذلك امرأة كان يأتيها الحيض 6 أيام من أول كل شهر ثم طرأت على الاستحاضة فصار الدم يأتيها باستمرار فيكون حيضها 6 أيام من أول كل شهر وما عداها استحاضة لحديث عائشة رضي الله عنها وأن فاطمة بنت أبي حبيش. We already talked about it. يا رسول الله إني أستحاض فلا أطهر فلا أفأدع الصلاة قال لا إن ذلك عرق ولكن دع الصلاة قدر الأيام التي كنت تحيضين فيها ثم اغتسلي وصلي. This is exactly what we said last class. An example again, there was a woman that her mens came on for 6 days normally in the first part of the month. Then istihada took her over, or came and afflicted her or tested her with this sickness. He says, so the blood, this blood now just came out of nowhere. This abnormal blood, it started coming continuously. So in that instance, on this example we're talking about here, she will what? She will wait when the mens was normal, 6 days from the first part of the month, like we just mentioned. And after those 6 days exceeds, then what? What's other than that is considered istihada, due to the hadith of Aisha and also the hadith of Fatima binti Abi Hubaysh, as we mentioned last class. Ya Rasulullah, verily I have istihada, fala athuru, and I do not become pure. Do I leave off the salah? He said no. So the Messenger of Allah is saying that this type of blood, the woman still has to pray, she still has to fast, as if she's still pure. She's still in the state of purity, even though she still will have to make a wudu for every salah. She will have to make a wudu for every salah. So the Messenger of Allah said, verily that is a vein, that's a irq. Verily that is a vein, or it's a hemorrhage. He says, وَلَكِنْ دَعِ الصَّلَاةَ قَدْرَ الْأَيَّامِ. Now listen what the Messenger of Allah said. However, leave off the salah on the days when you used to normally have your mens. Then, when you normally stop, make a ghusl and pray. There's another narration where the Prophet ﷺ said, the Habiba binti Jahsh, like we said last week, which was the sister of who, everyone? Like we said last week, Habiba was the sister of Zainab binti Jahsh, who was the wife of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. But at any rate, that narration that we also mentioned in the last class, where she said, kuthi qadra ma kanat tahbisuki haydatuki thumma ightasili wa salli. It's exactly what agrees and it coincides with what we just mentioned a couple of minutes ago. He says, stay and remain the amount of time in which your mens used to prevent you from the prayer and from fasting, from all those other affairs, when it was normal. Then after, when it stopped normally, when the same time when it stops normally, when that regular schedule, when everything was regulated, then make a ghusl and pray. If meaning the blood that exceeded that time when it was normal is considered a what? Istihada, and it's not considered what, everyone? A mens anymore. Is that what we mentioned? Right and wrong? Jayyid. The second, like we said, the second method of determining whether or not a woman is on her mens, what did we mention? What did we say? The characteristics. And what are from those characteristics? The color. Well, what are the characteristics exactly? What did we say? It's a black. It's thick and it has a smell. Jayyid. Ahsanti. So, that's the second way that we mentioned last class. Al-hala thaniya. أن لا يكون لها حين معلوم قبل الاستحاضة بأن تكون الاستحاضة مستمرة بها من أول ما رأت الدم من أول أمرها فهذه تعمل بالتمييز فيكون حيضها ما تميز بسواد أو غلظة أو رائحة يثبت له أحكام الحيض to the end of it. وما عداه استحاضة يثبت له أحكام الاستحاضة to the end of it. The second situation, the second way one could determine whether or not she is on her she is on her mens. Al-Hal al-Thaniya, he says that she does not have a normal mens before istihada actually afflicted her. She says, whereas istihada is continuous. It's continuous min awli ma ra'at ad-dam min awli amriha. Meaning, she didn't have a previous normal mens that she could go by. So what does she do here? So he says, rahimahullah, فَهِيَ تَعْمَلُ بِالتَّمْيِيز. That's the second type, which is called tamyiz, which is to ID or identify or distinguish between what is considered a mens and not by certain characteristics like we mentioned. Meaning, as it says, مَا تَمَيَّزَ بِسَوَادٍ أَوْ غِلْظَةٍ أَوْ رَائِحَةٍ, just like our sister mentioned, she said what? By either blackness, thickness, or what? Or scent. So those are the characteristics, which is the second step, which is called tamyiz. يَثْبُتُ لَهُ أَحْكَامُ الْحَيْض. So when a woman, if it has these characteristics, meaning the blood, if it's black, thick, it has also a scent, then the ahkam or the rulings in regards to a woman's mens has now been established and it has to carry out. Just for an example, I want to hear what the sisters have to say. If a woman is on her mens, what are some of the ahkam or the rulings now that takes place in regards to her? For example, number one, of course we know, we just repeated and said it continue or a couple of times. When a woman is on her mens, she has to leave off the salat and she has to leave off what? Fasting. Right, everyone? There are other ahkam that a woman has to leave off, or certain affairs now takes place when she's on her mens. Can some of the sisters name some others other than just leaving off the salat and leaving off fasting while she's on her mens? She can't touch the mushaf, but there's some details in that. There's some details. There's some details, but the origin is, of course, okay, we'll give her that for now, to leave off the touching the mushaf. But there's some details, we'll talk and elaborate on that later. That's a third thing. A fourth thing. She can't be intimate with her husband. Jade, as far as what? Intercourse itself. As far as intercourse, she cannot what? They cannot be intimate. What's another? Can I hear from another? It seems like it's just one sister giving the answers. Is there anyone else over there? We want some participation from just more than one sister. In regards to talaq, divorce. As we know, a man cannot divorce while she's on her what? Well, she's on her mens. She's on her mens. A man cannot divorce his wife, while she's on her mens. Tayyib. Another thing, she cannot make tawaf around the Kaaba. She cannot make tawaf. She cannot make tawaf around the Kaaba, but she can make sa'i. She could go and perform sa'i, but she cannot make tawaf. That's another thing, another affair. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? So she can't make tawaf. She cannot be intimate with her husband. She can't pray. She can't fast. She can't be divorced, of course. Anything else? Jayyid. Good answer. Tayyib. For the most part, these are the head. It's a couple of other things we'll talk about, inshallah. But for the most, we'll just suffice what we just mentioned here. So those affairs is what? All are established once a woman is on her mens. Tayyib. Also what necessitates from a woman once she's on her mens And once it stops, it's incumbent on her for her to make a what? Make a ghusl. She has to make a ghusl. طيب. Not only that, but even if she's on istihada, for example, the days when her mens is normal, right? And her mens stops on those days when it was normal, even though she has istihada, meaning after those normal days when she has her mens, or when she has her mens normally, and the blood exceeds after that, we know after that is istihada, after those days when it's normal, or when her mens was normal. But any days when the blood, if it comes out or emulates after that, if it emanates after her or comes out after those days exceeds when it was normal, then it's istihada. However, when her mens was normal, she counts the days and the time when it was normal. Even though she's still bleeding, she still will have to make a ghusl and still pray. Even though that other blood is continuing to what? Come out. Is it clear what I'm saying? Is it clear what I'm saying? Or no? Yes or no? No. Go back to the first step. Let's go back. Go back to the first step. طيب. A woman now has her mens normally when? Let's just give an example. On the 5th of every month. Right? It's been like this for a long time. January, February, March, always comes on the 5th time. Woman knows. And let's just say it lasts till what? The 10th. And she knows that it usually stops around 2 o'clock or 2:13 in the afternoon, or after Dhuhr, on the 10th. Right? This is when it was normal. طيب. Now she got tested with istihada. Istihada came out of nowhere. طيب. She now, this particular month, blood is just coming out. She don't know, what is this blood? This is totally off the normal schedule. طيب. Now the next month come in, this blood's still coming out. So now she goes back to when it was what? Normal. When it came on the 5th, right? It came on the 5th. It came on the 5th now. All the way to the what? To the 10th at 2:13. Right? After 2:13, even though she still sees blood coming out, she still will have to make a ghusl to take the janaba, the major impurity, off of her. After she made that ghusl for the major impurity to raise it off of her, even though the blood is coming out is considered istihada, she's making a ghusl for the mens, not for the istihada, to take herself out of the state of major impurity. Because we know that a woman, when she's on her mens, that she's considered in the state of what, sister? Major impurity, right? When she's considered in the state of major impurity. From the 5th, when it was normal, all the way up to the 10th, at 2:13, after Dhuhr, in the afternoon, she knows that's when it normally stops. So, once the mens stops, she will have to make a ghusl for the mens, not for the istihada. That's just to take it and raise her out of the state of major impurity. That's it, right? Then, after that, then the ahkam of istihada takes place. Where she what? She makes either a ghusl, and she can combine a salah, or she can make a wudu for every salah. That's for istihada, not for mens. But on the days when she knows when she normally has her mens, she would consider herself in a state of major impurity. All the way up to the 10th of 2:13 after Dhuhr, make a ghusl, then she will what? Pray a salah. She's still bleeding for every salah, then she just makes a wudu for every salah. Based upon the fact now it's considered what? Istihada. Is it clear what I'm saying, or does I need to repeat it again? Is it clear what I'm saying, or do I have to repeat it one more time? Is Sister sure, or do I have to if there's no problem with me repeating, I'll repeat it until it's clear. I have no problem repeating it. G. So even though that blood was still coming out, she still would have to make the ghusl, like we said, it's for the major impurity. For her mens, not for istihada, but for the mens, when it was normal. But like we talked about, that was one of the ways that a woman determines based upon what they call ada, when her mens was what? regulated and it came on habitually on time. Is it clear? So you had the first step, then we had the second step, which is tamyiz. طيب. There's another step that Ahl Ilm that we talked about last class. We talked about how a woman can also put herself in that container and what comes up of that color to also determine whether or not she's on her what? Her mens or her istihada. She can also do that by sitting in that container and when the blood rises above the water as we talked about last class. So all these are steps of when a woman can what? Usually find out or determine or ID between what is a haid, what is a mens, or what they call istihada, which is a what? Which is a sickness. طيب. There's a fourth step, excuse me. There's another fourth step, or there's a step that's a fourth step that we talked about, but I didn't get a chance to speak about it. He says you will find there are certain instances where the haid, the mens, is not known. She can't use what they call when it was normal, or she can't use tamyiz, let's just say. She can't use the other or the second step. She can't use that. Meaning, for example, that istihada is continuous. From the first time she's seen the blood, and the blood was upon one characteristic, or it was upon different characteristics. So it's kind of like a little bit thrown off. It's a little bit more thrown off than the first two scenarios that we gave. So here in this instance, a woman usually will what? Use by the ada of ghalib al-nisa, of what would be the mens of habitually comes on with the majority of women, which is either 6 or 7 days from every month. Usually going by the relatives in her house, usually. Or the relatives in her house, of those women that are close to her. Because usually sometimes you'll find that the woman's mens, they're kind of like close together of those who she's around majority of the time. By those who are closest relatives to her. He said, أن ترى الدم أول ما تراه في الخامس من الشهر ويستمر عليها غير أن يكون فيه تمييز صالح. That's exactly what we just mentioned. We don't need to reiterate that. But that which is the usual habitual time frame of what other women, what comes on normally, especially from those women who are close to her, from her relatives, especially in the immediate relatives or the immediate siblings in her house, from her immediate family. That's also how a woman could determine whether or not she's on her mens if she's not able to work by the first steps that we just gave. So she could work by that one or that one. So these are different steps in order to aid the woman, inshallah, upon how to determine whether or not she's on her mens or not. Due to the fact that there's the narrations, the good narrations what happened with the Prophet ﷺ's wife, Zaynab binti Jahsh. If we go back to what we talked about last week, of this step we're talking about and elaborating on, we notice that it happened to her sister, and it happened to two of her sisters. So not only was it Zaynab binti Jahsh, it was also Fatima binti Jahsh, and it also was Hamna binti Jahsh. All of them were sisters, and all of them had istihada. All of them were tested with that sickness. So all of them had istihada. So you had Hamna, you had Fatima, hold up, no. You have Hamna binti Jahsh, you have Zaynab binti Jahsh, who was the wife of the Prophet, his son was Zaynab binti Jahsh. Then you had Hamna binti Jahsh, and also her other third sister, I think it was Fatima binti Jahsh, yeah, I'm right. Fatima binti Jahsh, likewise, all of them were sisters. And all of them, their mens used to come on kind of close together, and they also were tested with the same type of what? Sickness, which is istihada. And how they also likewise could determine whether or not they was on their mens or not. If that's the case, where you're in a household where the women, where they have a lot of siblings, especially the women, then that's another step or way that a woman could determine whether or not she's on her mens based upon those closest relatives, which is from her immediate family, especially in the same house, to her. So that's another way. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? There's two. There's another one. You have Fatima bint Abi Hubaysh. There is another one who is Fatima bint Jahsh. You have Fatima bint Abi Hubaysh. Then you have Asma bint Umays. Those are different narrations. We're just talking about the specific situation, about what happened with Hamna bint Jahsh. Last week I mentioned the hadith about Hamna. Ahsanti, sister, you're right. Ahsanti, mumtaza. How if I see you throw everybody else? طيب, Ahsanti, you're right and I was wrong. You're right. It's Habiba binti Jahsh. It's Fatima binti Abi Umays. It's Asma binti Abi Umays, I'm sorry. And Fatima binti Abi Hubaysh. You're right. Ahsanti, it's Habiba. So the sister of Zainab was Habiba, wasn't Fatima, I'm sorry. I apologize. You're right and I was wrong. So it was Habiba binti Jahsh, and it was also Zainab and Hamna. They were sisters. You were right, sister, and I'm wrong. Ahsanti. Mumtaz. So you have Hamna, Habiba, and you have Zainab. They were sisters. And all of them had istihada, all three. So the step of what a person could determine whether or not the third step, like we mentioned, is said, is based upon those relatives that are close to her. So also try to give her a little bit of a hint of how or whether or not she could determine whether or not she's on her ments or whether or not she's on her istihada. Jayyid. Mumtaz. Shows that everybody's awake, even though some of us are fasting. Excuse me, sister, like I said, sometimes fasting even jogs my memory and jogs my mind sometimes. طيب. As we know, we're fasting, staying up late at night. Your mind is not as sharp as it usually is. But anyway, Ahsanti, I'm glad the sister is awake. طيب, so what we mentioned, those steps, that's just to sum up how a woman can what? Predetermine whether or not she's on her ments or not. Which is these steps, inshallah, will aid a woman in determining that. Because like we said, due to the fact that all these different things take over women's bodies, not only just from regards to medicines that they take, or medical medicines, or these chemical medicines that throws the balance off women, throws their balance off, due to all the different types of elements and key factors that takes place in our lives, that basically throws our body chemistry off, especially the women. And the different pills that are taken, or different things that people take in their bodies, likewise plays a tremendous role and effect on how throwing off the balance of the woman. Now, there was different questions in which we'll talk about, inshallah, about taking those pills, or, for example, pregnancy, or preventing, or or a pill that can prevent a woman's ments from coming on, all those different things in which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, inshallah. So now we'll get back to what we talked about, discussed from last week. Jeez, let's get back to it. It says it right here, alhamdulillah. She was right, I was wrong. It was Zainab, it says it right there. Habiba, and it says Hamna. All three. It's right there. Jayyid. Now we go back to the question what we were speaking about last week. We didn't get a chance to speak on that. I will speak on that next week, inshallah, about the woman's postnatal bleeding. طيب, let's give now some questions. Did she say something? Yeah, we're going to cover that. Don't worry. Who are you saying that? Who's that? Who's that? Boom, boom. Oh. طيب, first question. أنا امرأة تأتينا الدورة الشهرية في هذا الشهر الكريم في 25 إلى آخر الشهر. فإذا حدت فسوف أضيع أجرا عظيما فأستعمل الحبوب. Now this is a good question. I'm a woman that it comes to me, my normal or my mens. He says in this blessed month of Ramadan, he says on the 25th to the end of the month. فَإِذَا حِطُّ, he says, and if I have my mens, I'll basically lose out on a lot of reward, tremendous reward. Can I use pills to prevent me from mensing? He says, especially because I asked the doctor and he said it would not harm me. So can a woman now use pills or medicine to prevent her from mens so she can continue to fast? Can she or can't she? A woman says no. Do the other sisters agree with her? Anybody disagree? Anyone disagree? It's no problem if a woman says yes, no, it doesn't matter. No, I don't know. Allahu A'lam. We all came here to learn. So it doesn't. No one should feel shy, or one should look at one person funny, or what would you say that for? All of us came to learn, huh? You can say yes, no, Allahu A'lam. Jay, no problem. I say now, answer to the question. أقول لهذه المرأة لأمثالها من النساء اللاتي يأتيهن الحيض في رمضان إنه وإن فاتها من يفوتها من الصلاة والقراءة فإنما ذلك بقضاء الله وقدره وعليها أن تصبر. So he gives a question to give the answer, even with the great Imam Ibn Uthaymeen he mentions it says. He said, I say to these women, those who are similar of other women, in which mens comes to them in the month of Ramadan. He says, even though she might miss out what she misses out on of prayer and recitation or what have you. All of that is by the predetermined divine decree of Allah and His destiny. That's what He has written upon all the women. He says it is upon her to be patient due to the fact that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said to Aisha, he says when she had her mens, he gave her and said that this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written upon the daughters of Adam. He said, فَنَقُلْ لِهَا الْمَرَى, we say to this woman, إِنَّ الْحَيْدَ الَّذِي أَصَابَهَا الشَّيْء, that you have been tested with, that this mens that you've been tested with, is something that Allah has written upon the daughters of Adam, so be patient. However, do not subject or expose yourself to danger. He says, it's been established with us that those medicines or those type of hubub or those pills that prevents a woman's mens, that it has a tremendous effect upon her health and upon her womb. And upon her womb. And perhaps it might even affect the fetus. And it will render the fetus what they call tashawwu. Min ajli hadihi al-aqaqir. It will render the fetus to have some type of deformity because of these different types of what? Pills, or these different types of medicines. So it says for fil janeen tashawwu, some type of deformity because of these pills. So basically he's saying that's been established that if the doctor says, of course, that if it has those side effects, and it has that harm that will come, and we know that a lot of these chemical medicines that we take have some type of what? A lot of them have major side effects. So it comes as a result of it. If that's the case, then by all means, then a woman should what? Abstain from using them. And not use them to what? Put off her mens to a later time. Especially if it's going to cause this type of harm. But if it's something of herbs or something natural that she wanted to use momentarily, and it doesn't have no side effects, when it puts off the mens, but at the same time it doesn't cause harm upon the body, or harm upon one's health, then of course they can use it. But if it's been established that if a woman is harmed by these type of medicines, then by all means, then she has to abstain from taking them. Is it clear everyone? Another question. المرأة ينزل منها الحيض بعد غروب الشمس بقليل هل صومها صحيح؟ I want to ask the sisters this. A woman that blood comes out of her mens comes after the sun sets, meaning the time for Maghrib. Let's just say now, matter of fact, I'll give it a good example. Woman, she starts to the sisters tell me this, whether I'm right or wrong in this regard, because like I said, I'm not a woman, but I take advice from the women. Sometimes a woman can get, as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, a woman can get cramps before she actually sees the blood, right? Or is that after the fact? Before. G. So now let's just say a woman gets cramps, or she starts having the cramps before the sun is about to go down. She's fasting, right? The sun goes down. She doesn't see any blood yet. As soon as the time comes in, it's time to break her fast. Keep in mind, she does have her cramps. She has cramps. But she does not see any blood. All right? When the sun goes down, the time for breaking fast starts for Maghrib. A little bit of drop of blood she sees. But after the time came in, for breaking fast, is her fast, is it valid or not? Like one sister said it's valid. Anyone else disagree with her? Don't be fooled by the little giggles I give. Don't be fooled. Stay firm. Huh? You agree with her or not? Anybody else they disagree? Or they just say Allahu Alam? Or they just remain silent? طيب. The question to that is what? The answer to that, the answer to that is she's right. The fast is still valid. Her fast is still valid. Doesn't matter. As long as she does not see any blood, she didn't see anything. Until after the time came in, it doesn't matter. Let's just say about 2 minutes or 5 minutes after the time came in. Then she starts seeing blood. Fast is still valid. Now let's just switch it. Now let's give a different scenario. Woman now is fasting. Comes upon the morning. Let's just stick with the same example. Evening time comes. She has cramps. I would say like 5 minutes right before, let's just say 2 minutes before Maghrib, or 3 minutes before Maghrib come in. Blood started coming out. On the time where normally her mens comes on. On the time normally when her mens comes on. Is her fast valid or invalid? I switched it. Before Maghrib. When it's normal time. Normal time of when she normally has it. So she knows that it's coming. Is the siyam, is it valid or not? Huh? Oh, just one at a time, one at a time. One at a time. Huh? Good answer. Go ahead, let me hear from another sister. Huh? One at a time. I can't listen to 3, 4, 5 voices at once. Thus, one at a time. Tafadal. Good answer. So hold on, sister. You said a good answer. You said answer. She said answer. Jade. Answers are good answers. Someone agree or disagree with her? Huh? So she said, you saying it's valid or invalid? It's invalid. Fine. Your answers are correct. It's invalid. Her fasting is invalid. Doesn't matter. Her fast is invalid. If her mens came on, doesn't matter if it was 5 minutes before Maghrib came in. If the blood came, if she sees the blood, and that's at the time when she has her mens, and keep in mind, I said she had what? Cramps. So that's a clear indication that what that blood is what? It's a mens. That's a clear indication. Clear indication it's a mens. So if it came on, even if it's 5 minutes before Maghrib, 5 minutes before Maghrib, then that mens, that's considered a mens, which comes as a result of it, and it invalidates her fast. Doesn't matter. Whether or not she was fasting the whole day, and all the way up to the last minute, mens came on. So sister probably be sad. Don't be sad, sister. Alhamdulillah, you got the reward for that day all the way up to when the time it came on. But still, she still will get the reward, but she will still have to make up that day. She still will have to make up that day after the month of Ramadan is over. Because that day, she didn't fast all the way up to when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the fast is supposed to stop when the time comes in from Maghrib. When the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, in the hadith which is Bukhari, he says, فَإِذَا طَلَعَتِ الشَّمْسِ هَا هُنَا, he says, وَغَرَبَتِ الشَّمْسِ مِنْ هَا هُنَا فَقَدْ أَفْطَرَ الصَّائِمُ. The first part of the narration it says, فَإِذَا طَلَعَتِ الشَّمْسِ فَقَدْ وَجَبَ الصِّيَامِ. For the first part, when the sun comes up. And he talked about how he says, فَإِذَا أَدْبَرَتِ الشَّمْسِ وَغَرَبَتِ الشَّمْسِ, that the sun is to go down. He says, فَقَدْ أَفْطَرَ الصَّائِمُ, that the person who's fasting is obligatory upon him to what? Break their fast at that time. So anything before that will invalidate it, even if it's by a couple of minutes, it doesn't matter. Then the fast is still invalid and she will have to make that day up. Is it clear what I'm saying? She still will have to make that day up. That day will have to be made up. Doesn't matter. Tayyib, give another example. Let's now go to in the morning time. Let's go to the morning. Let's just say woman, she's in the night. Her mens go, let's just say it went off. This is a good question, alhamdulillah. Her mens went off at night. And was some of the sisters here for the class I just gave the other day, yesterday, and last week, last Friday, last Saturday? Was any of the sisters here? Or did any of the sisters hear the class? Jay, keep this in mind. Some of the sisters might know the answer, some of them might be thrown off. But if they was listen to the other class, they'll know exactly what they answered. Like, let's just say we know now that a woman has to make a what? A ghusl when her mens is off, once it goes off. Is that clear or not? Is that clear with all the sisters? That once a woman's mens goes off, she has to make a ghusl. She has to make a ghusl. Jay. In regards to Ramadan, let's just say she woke up in the morning, the blood stopped. Blood stopped. No blood. She's pure now. She woke up for sahur, maybe before Fajr came in by 20 minutes. So she ate her food, whatever, she ate dates, whatever she did for sahur to get herself ready to fast. Tayyib. Fajr came in, but she didn't make a ghusl yet. But she ate sahur, right? And the time for Fajr came in, so she started her fast. But she didn't make a ghusl for the men to come to take her out of the state of major impurity yet. She didn't make a ghusl yet. Is her fast still valid or not? J. Excellent answer. Because we talked about in the previous class that the woman being in a state of major impurity does not affect what? Doesn't affect her fast. J. Doesn't affect the fast. Really, boom, boom? Really? Really? Any rate. Tayyib. So it doesn't affect her what? It doesn't affect the fast. All right, now let's give another question. All right, woman became pure now. She became pure in the night. She woke up, all right, now my mens no more. All right. She ate sahur, ate her pre-dawn meal, started her fast. Fajr came in, started the fast. Tayyib. After, let's just say, after an hour, or maybe throughout the day, keep in mind, she's pure now. She's pure. Straight pure. Tayyib. The sun came up, she ate a pre-dawn meal, started fast. Let's just say in the morning or in the afternoon, she starts seeing discoloration and spotting. She started seeing discoloration and spotting after she was purified. Is her fast valid or invalid? Did she say no? Did she say no or yes? It's you because sometimes na'am and la and no and yes kind of confuses me. Really, room boom? Yes, no, you're really valid. You're gonna give me an answer. Right? What'd you say, sisters? Sister says valid. Who agrees? Who disagrees? Huh? But one sister says it's invalid. Play good. I like all your answers. All right, anybody agree or disagree? Yeah, but we have dalil. What is the dalil? What's the evidence? What's the evidence? What's the proof? Then we have a hadith. Atiyah. Jayyid. What's the hadith? What is it? Jayyid. Excellent answer. Discoloration. She's seen yellowness. She's seen spotting. She's seen yellowness. So she's seen those type of things. I think sisters I think they know what this is, right? I hope they do. Some type of discoloration, yellowness, those type of affairs. Those spotting, those type of things. She sees that. We said the hadith Atiyah, which is what? We never, during the time of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu it says, كُنَّا لَا نَعُدُّ الْكُدْرَةِ وَالصُّفْرَ بَعْدَ الطُّهْرِ شَيْئًا. We did not used to consider what? Kudra, that black discoloration, or sufra, or yellow, or yellowness, that yellowness type of spotted. After purification, nothing. So in that case, she would not consider it what? Anything. So in this case, what would she do? She still would what? She still would fast. She still would fast. Good answer. Good answer. Now, good. All right, Jay. Right, now I ask another question. If a woman now wakes up, I like this. The woman now wakes up. She starts fasting. Matter of fact, let me reverse it. She wakes up in the morning. She's still on her meds. After Fajr, she's still on her meds. Her meds stopped in the middle of the day. Let's just say 3 o'clock. Stop. She made a ghusl. Tayyib. Does she have to now start fasting? Do you have to start fasting or not? Tayyib. We have one sister that said yes. Tayyib. Does anyone else agree or disagree with her? Does she have to start fasting? Or does she just continue her normal day? Where she just eats and drinks for that day? Continue her normal day. Good. That's another good answer. Tayyib, who agrees, who disagrees? Some sisters' answers sound like she in doubt, but she's trying to agree. I agree. Sound some type of doubt in the answer. Tayyib, what else? The answer is this. Tayyib, now listen. Once a woman starts her day where she did not fast on Ramadan, if she wakes up in the morning, and as a matter of fact, this narration of Ibn Mas'ud shall aid you guys, inshallah, aid everyone. It will aid everyone, not you guys, but aid everyone. The narration of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Abd, the great Sahabi, where he said, من أكل أول النهار فليأكل آخره. Whoever eats in the first part of the day, then let him eat the last part. What is Abdullah ibn Mas'ud talking about here? Meaning for the person who broke his fast due to a justifiable excuse from Kitab and Sunnah. If you ate in the first part of the day, due to an excuse, of course, then what? Then eat and drink the last part of the day. So this would necessitate that if a woman now has started her day where she did not where she did not fast, then it's permissible for her to what? Eat and drink for the last part of the day due to the fact that her fast, she cannot resume it. There cannot be no resume of fasting in the month of Ramadan in the middle of the day. You can't. It has to start when, everyone? The women have to start what time? For Fajr. Everyone has to start the time when? For Fajr. Anything after that, it's not considered a fasting, of course. That is what? That is adequate. Or excuse me, where we would say that it's a fast where a person carried out the obligation. Because it started in the middle of the day. So you cannot do that. That wouldn't be a fast that is what? Legislated. We're supposed to start at the time for Fajr. So, but however, we know that a woman left off fasting due to something that was justifiable and excused from Kitab and Sunnah. Due to the fact she was on her meds, right? Right or wrong? So once she starts eating and drinking, then in the middle of the day, once her meds stop, she makes a ghusl, she still can continue to eat and drink for the rest of her day. Is it clear? She still continues to eat and drink. She doesn't start fasting in the middle of the day. The only time that a person will abstain from eating food and drink in the middle of the day, usually be for a punishment. In regards to the fast for Ramadan, for example, a person broke their fast because they was intimate with each other, with the husband and wife were intimate with each other during the day of Ramadan. They're not supposed to do that, right? That's a punishment. So you'll find that Ahl Ilm say as a punishment for them, after they fell in that particular evil or that particular act, then they still had to remain for food and drink for the rest of the day. Due to the fact that they broke their fast because of a sin, not because of something that was what? Excused from Kitab and Sunnah. You understand? Is it clear what I'm saying or is it not? I'll say it one more time. Jade, no problem. No problem. A person now, let's just say, anything that you broke your fast from that's not justifiable or something as an excuse from Kitab and Sunnah. For example, you traveling or you being sick or you being on your meds or, for example, had to donate blood or what have you. Those are things that are all justifiable in the boundaries of Kitab and Sunnah. Of course, we're a woman now, all these things are justifiable. Person got sick, person had a virus, he's thrown all over the place. So now he's sick. So now he will what? Break his fast, right? All these are justifiable, right, everyone? Tayyib. Now, in regards to, let's get into the affair of sins. Like a person just broke his fast because I don't want to fast. Well, you have the capability, right? You don't find no hardship. No, I don't. I just don't feel like it. So a person now ate something or he drank. Or let's say, for example, a person was intimate with his wife or a wife was intimate with her husband or whatever. So those things are what? Sinful, right? Are they sinful or not? We know that breaking fast, first of all, let's lay down the origin. The origin is that a person that breaks their fast in the day of Ramadan without a justifiable excuse from Kitab and Sunnah is a major sin. Is that clear? It's from the kaba'ir, it's from the major sins. Can't eat and drink or do anything that will break your fast in the month of Ramadan except from a justifiable excuse from Kitab and Sunnah. That's agreed upon. The only time a person has been legislated or it's legalized for them to eat or drink or enjoy the rest of their day is if something of an excuse takes place, whether they be traveling or whether they be sick or a woman is on her meds or what have you. Or if they have those sickness that they cannot fast at all, if they have that severe type of sickness. All these are justifiable excuses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated for a person to what? Leave off fasting. Right? Tayyib. Now let's get into the aspect of sins. A person, let's just say, and I hate to be frank, and sisters don't laugh, we're being serious here. A person, for example, in the middle of the day, let's just say they masturbated in the middle of the day for Ramadan. So that means you broke your fast. Let's just say they masturbated until the person ejaculated. Until the point, I even spoke to the brothers about this. They masturbated until the point where the person ejaculated. You nullified your fast. You nullified it from an unjustifiable excuse from Kitab and Sunnah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not allow you to do that and to break your fast from that act. طيب, due to that act you committed, you still will have to abstain from food and drink for the rest of the day. Even though you still have to make up that day. Why? Due to the fact of it being as a punishment for the person of violating and infringing upon the sacredness of fasting and the virtuous time that we're in of Ramadan. Is it clear what I'm saying? It's because the person, like we said, violated, as they say, hurmatus sawm. They transgressed the sacredness of what? Fasting. So whether it be from those affairs that break fast, with eating, drinking on purpose, throwing up on purpose, also being intimate as far as intercourse on purpose. But we know that a person can still, or a woman can still touch her husband, or a husband can touch the wife and fondle with her, as long as it's in the boundaries where it does not lead to them being intimate. Or the man or the woman ejaculating, or the man ejaculating semen. Those things, like we said, if it leads to that, then they should not touch each other. But if they can able to, like we said, fondle without it leading to something that will invalidate the fast, then they can do it. But the only thing that's prohibited is what, as we talked about, is intercourse itself. Is it clear? Is it clear or is it not clear? Jay. طيب. So now, let's give another example. I'll give a good, alhamdulillah, a couple of examples. Let's just say, we did the question about the ghusl. Matter of fact, I can go back. That's about postnatal bleeding. I didn't go over that yet. Oh, we already talked about that. Oh. وجدت الصفر مع الصفرة الدمية يسيرة من قطع الدم في اليوم الثالث. Oh, okay. No. أنت شايف سوى الصفر والدم اليسير. طيب. Now let's get back to the initial question from last week. All right. The woman, we'll go to the question last week. There's a woman now that had, of course, her mens came on. Or let's just say, no, it didn't come on yet. Not necessarily. But she just seen discoloration out of nowhere. That's the way we could put the question. Let's just say a woman now, out of nowhere, yellowness just came out of nowhere. However, the initial blood for the mens, it did not start for the month of Ramadan, where she usually has her mens, but she just out of nowhere started seeing discoloration and spotting. But her mens didn't come on yet, her initial mens. So on this following day, she found spotting again and discoloration. Then it stopped. طيب. And now, in the third day, keep in mind, sisters, based upon, and I'm going to give you a hint, Hadith Atiyah, that's all I'm going to say. Then after that, on the third day, blood started coming out. What is the hukum for those 2 days? Now she gets it. Now, anybody agree or disagree with her? Now she started seeing blood coming out. So what is the hukm for those 2 days that she did not see other than that spotting? Even though this did not occur before. What is the hukm in regards to those first 2 days? Is that the adhan? You call the adhan already? No, it could be the adhan. Oh, no, I'm hearing things. Tafadal. I'm sorry. The elder sisters are silent. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I just worded it a better way because it was the way I had to word it a better way. I think it's kind of clear. To me, it's clear. No, it's the same thing. Trust me. I just worded it a different way. But the way I addressed it last week, I just kind of just made it a little bit more clear in this way. Like I addressed it last week, it wasn't too clear. So I'll just paraphrasing a little bit more better. Let's make it worded better. So that's a little bit more clear now. Out of nowhere, she started seeing just discoloration. Out of nowhere, after her purification, out of nowhere, I just started seeing yellowness and discoloration. So a woman now would consider that. Of course, she would think that's a mince. Just a normal, common folk woman. I just think, that's the symptoms of a mince. That's what she would think, right? I kind of paraphrased it, like I said, because the way I asked it last week, it wasn't too clear. So that's the reason why I could see why I was confusing the way I said it last week. So that's why I'm kind of like, I broke it down a little bit better, so now it could be a little bit more clear. So a woman now, she's pure. Out of nowhere, she just starts seeing spotting. Never happened before. So the first day, she's got discoloration. Second day, she got yellowness. Third day, now the mints started coming out. Now she starts seeing normal blood. But what is the hukm in regards to those first 2 days? So a woman said there's what? No. I want to hear everybody. Nobody, like I said, no. I want everyone to keep this in mind. We are all here to learn. So nobody's right and wrong in this type of arena. I mean, nobody should ostracize or look down upon one because one gave a right answer, one gave a wrong answer. We are all here to what? To learn. So that's the reason why. That's the reason why I want everybody just to hear their minds of what as far as the answer. So it's no problem. I don't want nobody to think. But just the only thing is, sisters, I can't hear three or four voices at one time. So it just have to be one at a time. Now, tafadal. Good answer. What did the other sister say? I heard something else different. She said it. What? Oh, that was the question? Oh, I thought that was the answer. I'm sorry. That's the initial question, basically. Yes. Good answer. Good answer. Like, sister, disagree. I heard another sister's answer. Well, she kind of gave a little bit more details. She said, what if it's on the course of the day of immense? Oh. Okay. Jay. All right. Now I even read quickly the answer. Inshallah, this will get a little bit more insight. It says, لا شك أن الحيض هو الدم الذي ينزل من المرأة وهو دم طبيعي. Of course, no doubt that the mense is the blood, of course, that comes out. It's normal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed upon the daughters of Adam. Either it will come at a known time, or either it will come with certain characteristics, and it will come with certain symptoms. So now these symptoms or these characteristics, if they all been complete, then of course we know it's the natural blood that will come as a result of it, its rulings. And if it does not have those certain characteristics, and those certain symptoms, then it's not considered a mens, as we know. As we know, the hadith of Atiyah, we never considered yellowness and blackness after purification anything. Right? Right? We never considered it anything. So a woman that has been afflicted with these type of what she mentioned in the question. He says, however, the blood did not start yet. Her actual mens didn't start. But it's still yellowness or discoloration that came after purification. If that's the case, then we still say that those first 2 days is not a mens. But after that, then it's what? After those days when it starts to come on now, where the blood is coming out naturally, of course, then she would consider those days a mens. But before that, those 2 days, then she would consider that a what? She still would pray, she still would fast, was considered istihada for those first 2 days. Like we said, because it was even mentioned in the question, she says, this is the first time this ever happened. So right now, let's just say a woman's on her mens. It went off. Once we finish the chapter of Kitab al-Nikah, I'm going to go over the chapter with the mens with the women again. I'm going to go over the whole thing. And it's not that long. It's about maybe 4 or 5 hadith. Matter of fact, about 6. We'll go over the whole thing once we finish the book Kitab al-Nikah after Ramadan is over. But at any rate, a woman's on her mens, it goes off. Let's just say 2 weeks later, or maybe 3 weeks later, she starts seeing spotting, discoloration, yellowness, discoloration. That's still in accordance with the hadith, where it says after purification, we never consider what? That discoloration anything after purification. Right? After purification. So if that's the case, after purification, then she would consider anything. But keep in mind, because inshallah, we're going to bring the ahadith that kind of goes against, as they say, go against the grain a bit, where we want to reverse the meaning of the hadith. What do you mean? Notice in the hadith it says that we never consider it after purification anything. But what about before purification? Like what if she has spotting during the time of the normal days when she has her mens? You understand? Those details we'll get into later on. But once after she has her mens, it stops, she's pure, and anything that comes on after that, it's not considered nothing. She still will what? Pray, and she still will what? Fast. And I'm going to just leave it right there, all right? Okay? All right, because there is some certain details where we do go against the grain, but we'll talk about that at a later time, because I don't want to confuse the sisters for now. Because I want to finish the chapter of Kitab al-Nikah, then we'll get into the chapter of a woman's mens, where like we said, we could get a little bit more details, because the month of Ramadan is kind of hectic to get in deep detail, where it would kind of mess up everybody's information that we already have set in their minds. Jayed? So is everything clear? Was clear in the class today? Is there any confusion? Any sisters that's confused, just let me know. Anything? As far as fasting, let's keep it Ramadan. Any questions about fasting? Sisters can ask me anything about fasting. Anything pertaining to fasting. Jay, tafadal. No, as far as dental work, as far as what means dental work, if it's something that can be put off, if it's something that can be put off till after the month is over, and it doesn't, well, number one is, and I'll go back to it, if it's considered a toothache, or if it's considered removing a tooth, or tooth getting pulled. Oh, they got to numb it. Oh, okay. They have to numb it with a needle. Okay. For that reason, a person would consult with the doctor to say, does it give nutrients to the body? If it doesn't give nutrients to the body, then it doesn't break the fast. If it doesn't give nutrients to the body, it doesn't break the fast. needles, if it's injected in the gum, and if it does not give nutrients, it does not break your fast. All right? That's the first thing. Second thing, once the tooth is pulled, because you're trying to relieve yourself of pain, right? Usually. A person usually just gets a tooth pulled because they're in pain. If they get the tooth pulled, you'll find that Ahl Ilm, even Shaykh Uthaymeen said you can do it. Even if a person swallows a little bit of blood unintentionally, a little bit, then it doesn't harm the fast. Initially, it does not harm the fast. But however, if it's something that, like we said, you're facing of pain or sickness or whatever because of a toothache, then he said that one can have it removed. You can have it done. You can have all that done. But as far as, like we said, numbness, needles, we know initially that needles, if it gives nutrients to the body, it breaks your fast. Is that clear? If a person if he takes a needle, injects it in his bloodstream, if it gives nutrients to the body, it breaks your fast. All right? But if it's injected and it's intended by some type of numbness to the gum and it doesn't give nutrients to the body, it doesn't break the fast. All right? Is it clear? Any other questions? As far as high blood pressure, certain people, it depends on what type it is. And if the doctor says that he has to take a pill throughout the day, that's something different. Certain people don't have to take the pill. It depends on what type it is. So a person will firstly consult with the doctor. Even if he's a non-Muslim, he can consult and say, can I take it in the morning before I fast, and will it harm me? So that's the first thing. If he said no, you can take it in the morning or you can take it in the evening, and it will not harm you to fast, then person can still fast. If the doctor, of course, that you consult with allows, and he says no problem. That's the first thing. Second thing, if a person now is during the day, of the course of the day, if he feels or he or she is about to pass out, he's going to pass out, then that's when it's reached a level where you're considered sick, where you have to break your fast. If it's reached that level, whereas you feel like you're going to pass out, then in that instance, the person will break his fast. Especially if it reaches this level. Because that's dangerous. You feel like you're going to pass out. And that's due to the hadith when the Prophet ﷺ has seen the man that that they was giving him, basically he passed out or he was on the ground. And they were giving him shade. And he was around him. And he said, well, why was he fasting? Or what's wrong with him? He said that he was traveling, but he was fasting while he was traveling, meaning that it got to the point where he was passing out, where he passed out. So here in this instance, of course, that person was commanded to break the fast because of the difficulty of the travel. But however, if a person is sick and it reaches this level, then here a person will break his fast. Especially if you feel you're going to pass out. If you feel you're dizzy, you're going to pass out, then by all means, the person should what? Break the fast. And in that instance, if you feel that it's a sickness, that it's going to stick with you all the time, or it's a chronic illness, then of course a person that in that instance would feed. But if you feel that it was just a little temporary sickness, where it was, for example, temporary vertigo or whatever, what they call vertigo? Vertigo where a person feels dizziness, and it's something temporary, then you would just make him up after the month of Ramadan is over, and that's it. Once you drink water, you broke your fast. If you take any fluids in, you broke your fast. Any fluids that's taken in or anything that's put in the body that goes inside the intestines or the stomach breaks your fast. Is it clear? Gee. Any other questions about Siyam? Anything else? I'm sure the sisters do have some questions. Nothing about Siyam, about fasting. I'll wait like 1 more minute. Eardrops? No. Eardrops don't break the fast. It depends on whether or not, as they say the hadith, you'll find the Sahaba, he says, كنا نصوم صبياننا وكنا يعني نلهيهم بالعهن فيلعبون به. As it says at the end of the narration, it says that we used to give our children little toys, and it says that we used to make our children fast. But you will never find that, as far as the narrations and what I know is, that there's no specific age. Unless the only time before under the age of when they're supposed to fast, one can do it in order to have them acclimated. Under the age of what they call when they're supposed to be, or when the duties of Islam become binding upon them, such as when they either see pubic hair, or when they reach 15, or either when they have pubic hair, or when they have a wet dream, or when they have 15. Not all three of these characteristics, but if one appears. But if one, for example, some boys, some girls start growing pubic hair at an early age, right? Let's just say some of them grow pubic hair around 10, 9. If that's the case, it's obligatory upon them to start praying and fasting. So they have to pray and fast. And certain boys and girls start having a wet dream, let's just say 11. If one of those signs appear, then it's obligatory for them to fast and pray. So it doesn't necessarily have to wait up to the age of 15. Some people think that. That's not the case. If one of those characteristics appear, where you see a woman has a mens, and we know these days little girls can have menses at 9, 10. I know even my daughter, her mens came on extremely early, 10. I wasn't even expecting that. Her mens came on at 10. 10 years old. It happens, right? 10 years old. So now, it's obligatory now for her to what? Fast and pray. She has to fast and pray. So, but anything under that age, sisters, then you can just make them fast, not for it to be an obligation, but help making them fast from time to time in order to have them acclimated to the fast. All right? So anything under that time. Under the time where the signs of puberty have not, or under the signs, one of them, like we said, can appear, and that would be suffice for where they have to do it. But anything under that time or under those characteristics, where they before they appear, then you can do it from time to time in order to have them acclimated to the fast. But once the signs of puberty is apparent and it's clear, then it's obligatory for them to start what? Fasting and praying. Is it clear? Anything else? Alhamdulillah. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. That's on the internet. Oh, it's a question on the internet. Gee, you said what was it again, Evie? What was the question? Calm down. You cool. You good. Relax. Now, if a woman, if her mens comes on 5 minutes before the fast, before the time of fasting, time comes in, we said that the fast is invalid. If her mens comes on 5 minutes before the time comes in. If it's in 5 minutes or 10, it doesn't matter. Before the time comes in, if the sun is still up and her mens comes on, the fast is invalid. It's invalid. It's invalid. Is that clear to the sisters? Oh, that was somebody online that asked that? You tell them. Well, don't tell them to write it. Play. Hey, is there anything else online? Oh, they heard it. Okay. I'm going to ask one more time. Is there anything else?